So this is a basic tutorial on how to do some general EU4 map changes and converting that to Vicky3. So in this one, we have some work that changes up some areas as well as changing different provinces and where that belongs in what area. In this case, we're going to talk about three examples. So one of them is Trolls Bay. We're merging these two areas together to be called Trollhair Woods. And then on the Reaper's Coast, we're doing the same thing, just a simple rename of Mordoon State to Deathwaits. And then this last one is a bit more complicated, of actually transferring provinces that own to a different state to a new state because of the changes in EU4. So let's start with this one. So this one, Bushbanks to Trollhair Woods. So as we can see in Vicky3 right now, this is just called Bushbanks. It's pretty much the same corresponding area, so we'll just renaming it to Trollhair Woods. In this case, if you open up Visual Studio Code, you've probably done something like this before, but it's about finding the name of Bushbanks and just renaming it. So we can, the naming scheme is usually just state underscore whatever it says. In this case, we will say state Bushbanks. And where we store it, though you will see it in various different files. The first one up here is history building. So this is where data on what kind of buildings are in that status. The other one is pops, which is, as expected, the pops of that state. The other one is history states, which determine who actually owns it. So in this example, Bushbanks here is owned by B20, which is Marlian. And just a small side note, so how Vicky3 works is that the province IDs are just the colors of the actual province if you're looking at the province map. So if you remember from EU4, the province map is just RGB colors. This one is just the hex of the RGB with an X added into the beginning. And then the rest is localization. So the actual name, Bushbanks, and then the hub names, which we'll get through in a different tutorial. But those are essentially the small cities that you see, like Marlian, New Enderspee, stuff like that. But yeah, so let's just do a quick rename. State Bushbanks. If you do Control Shift F, you can go into the replace all, and we're just gonna change that to Trollhair Woods. So now that we've done that, obviously make sure to save if you don't have auto save on, and now we should also change the localization. So in this case, let's just change that to Trollhair Woods. So Vicky3 won't automatically update. I don't think it will anyway, but we'll see that later. So we'll do that. That's done. The next is doing the same thing to Mordoon and Deathwaits, which is very simple. So this is the Mordoon province, Mordoon state. And as per this document, we're renaming it into Deathwaits. So let's just do the same thing. So let's say state Mordoon. So let's see if it's called that. Yes, it is. And let's just change that to state Deathwaits. So just click replace all, just replaces it. And again, let's find where state Deathwaits is to change the localization. In this case, we're already in the file, states English YML, and we'll just do that. So the next one is a tricky one. So let's start it. So this is moving some provinces around as well as changing the name of the state. So if we look here, mass port is not really a thing in EU4. In the document, it corresponds to these. So it's a combination essentially of Dark Groves and Mastport. So essentially we want to give this state, Dark Groves, these provinces. So one way to do that is to do it in the code. So in this case, let's find state dark robes, and then essentially it's about finding the hex IDs of these provinces. So one way you can do that is if you start Vicky3 in debug mode, or if you just do debug mode, you'll get this pop-up, and you can you can try and be blind and see it. So you can see the province ID changes. So this one is XE6A, and this one's a different province ID. So you can see XE6A is in Cheshosh right now, and if we go to Cheshosh, it's right here, XE6A, and you can do it manually and just move it along like that. Another way you can do it is via the map editor. So if we just start that right now, so you can start this when you're in the game by just typing this, and let's just wait for it to load. So this might take a while if you have like a potato PC. It's kind of, oh, there you go. So in this case, so this is the map editor. Ignore a lot of these. If you've not set it up, find out how to set it up, or maybe there's another video about it. In this case, you go to map content editor, and this is the province map I'm talking about now. So you should be familiar with this if you looked at EU4 provinces before. In Vicky3, we have, it needs to be more granular. So a lot of provinces in Vicky3, especially in Elantir and places that are got larger provinces, we will have more. So if you go here, you'll have the province view. You can also switch to go to state regions, and it's the exact same, but it's for state regions. And here we can see some kind of options here to navigate. In this case, territory selection mode, we can select each territory, and you can see it gets highlighted. So this is Cheshosh, this is Dark Robes. If I move it to province, it's the same. So if you remember the E6A, it's this province here. So what we want to do is to actually just move these provinces over. So the cleanest way to do this is first select the original owner and then click remove from group mode. And we're doing this because if you don't, there are some instances where the province can belong to two states, and that can mess things up. So in this case, let's be safe and remove it. So let's just do that. Boop. There you go. So those are all removed now. So that belongs to no one. So if we save this, it'll update your files. It'll belong to no one. So then we just click this one and then just do the same. We add to group mode, and there you go. That should be it. It should be changed. So if you're lucky, if you click save, that should be it. If you've not set it up like I have, like last time it was a bit messy, so if you click save as, well, let's click save first. If you click save as, you get the selection here of what bits you want to actually save. In this case, if you're just doing this change and you don't want to clog up your PR, you can go to map content data and then just find the related file you want. In this case, I know it's in either Norwin or the Ruined Isles, but let's just say just save all, and we'll just save all of that. Boop. So let's check our PR. So what we're looking for here is essentially checking if that E6A province has moved properly, because sometimes this can mess up and you're going to have to do it manually. In this case, let's have a look. So we can see our changes here, Bushbanks to Trollhair Woods. We can see Cheshosh, and we can see Dark Robes here. And we can see that E6A has been moved. And we can see here, E6A has been removed here, so it doesn't have it anymore in Cheshosh. So that's great. And the last thing we need to do now is obviously change it to the mask port name. And that's the exact same as we've done it for the other ones. So just do dark groves. And then let's just replace that with mask port. There you go. And then obviously let's just search for mask port again and change the name dark groves to that. So let's go mask port, make sure that's all saved. Check the Norwin file again just to double check. And you can see, oh, it's a bit messy because it's not done it. So you might have to go do some stuff about that. In this case, let's look for dark groves again. Or dark grove. There you go, dark groves. It's dark groves, not dark grove. So let's do state mask port, just replace that. Now let's just look for any instances of dark grove just in case. Nope. Let's look for instances of mask port just to double check. So buildings, pops, states, it's updated wherever it's related, so strategic regions, the city names, state passport, it's there. And I don't know what this is, this kind of messed it up. So let's just do that, so it looks like it's undiscovered. Oh yeah, it's because, let's just do that, boop, put it up back to 5. That should be okay. And let's check our files again. More dune to def weights, dark of some mask port, state to Chashosh. Okay, cool. So that seems to be all fine. PR list seems okay. Histories have been changed, localization has been changed. Map data, because I saved it to all the map content, all of this is going to be updated. Obviously, if you want to help tidy it up, just get rid of them and discard the changes that you know you've not touched. And provinces, they will save provinces a lot. In this case, we've not even touched provinces because we've only just changed the distribution rather than drawing, so let's just discard that as well. And same with map editor status. You can choose to keep this or not. In this case, we're discarding it. So now let's just restart Vicky3. And hopefully this should work, and hopefully this should load fairly quickly. But yeah, so that's the basics of how to have changes from EU4 to Vicky3. There will be some instances where provinces will have to be redrawn, and that is another issue entirely. But it should largely remain the same, right? If the provinces are redrawn, then we may still use the same references and stuff like that. So now let's check Neratica. Oh, it doesn't work. So in this instance, if it doesn't work, there's probably some issues of what's it called, local issues with the map. So you can go into your folder here, and then you can have a look around and see if it's something to do with that. In this case, this is what happens when multiple states think they own the same province. So you can see here there's an overlap. So if we investigate this, we see E6A9A98. We can have a look at that. Look for Massport and look for Chishosh, or we just look for the actual province, E6A9A8. What is that? E6A9A6. So we can see here that it still belongs in Chishosh. And it's still referred to in Chishosh, but it also belongs in Massport. So what we have here essentially is the histories don't align with the actual states. So in this case, there is some weird ownership going on, so we have to do this manually. In this case, if we look at this, we know that Chishosh is owned by this tag and then this small tag here. What we can do now is actually just find the Chishosh tag, Chishosh state, and see the new ones. So we just grab all of these because we know that that's real. We just copy and paste. We find the one here. And that actually belongs now to Massport. So we will move that down to Massport because that's X1 BDEFC, which is this one here, right? So essentially the Kanto owned this thing here, which was technically from Chishosh, but now it belongs to Massport, so we need to do some jumping around. So let's do that. And then for Massport, let's just have a look again and say Massport, it's all of this. And let's go to the histories. Massport is all of this. Make sure to, we see here, capitalization doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't generates a capitalized, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, we can see the X1 BD is actually there, so we just remove that to just make sure that Massport B27, aka this erratic attack, it doesn't own that. So now let's just check again. E6A is here, and then E6A is not in Chishosh anymore. Let's check the XD55. So let's do XD55. So it's this one. And if I'm double clicking it here, and I can see if there's any duplicates. So for example, if I do this here, if I do that, you can see that it's highlighting the duplicates. You can't really tell, but you can tell that there's some duplication here, and you can also Control F this to see if there's a 1 of 1 or 1 of 2 if there's a duplicate. So in this case, this should be okay technically. We should have removed any weird overlaps here. So let's just relaunch the game. So I think the issue here, maybe you can go back on the video, but maybe there were some different names on, so I didn't catch it the first time with my Control F replace all. So sometimes if there is some stuff that messes up, you might have to rely on just manually finding the province IDs. And obviously, as I showed before, one way to do it is through the debug and hovering over stuff. The other way is you could go into the map editor and look at the province map there, and you can see if you click each color, it'll say what the ID is. So both ways are valid. And this issue is because these states are referred to in loads of different files. So in this case, buildings pops and history states, as well as the actual state regions. So the state region is the thing that defines it as that is what the state is. That's the truth. This is all the provinces in the state. Here's all the traits. The other ones are ownership. So that might mess things up. So if this messes up, then you're on your own. If it's cool, then amazing, it all works. So let's check. And there you go. So as you can see, we've changed it now. Mask port, it's called mask port instead of dark robes. It owns this river area that we've changed. It also owns this. So this is part of the mask port state, but it's owned by a different country. So it's a split state. In this case, the Canton owns it. So that was the small, if we go back here, that was this small province here. That is that, because it's owned by a different tag here. It's owned by B28. And then we can see that these guys no longer overlap as well. The only overlap in this case is this. It's because of the split state. But this state is perfectly complete. And that's it. So good luck.